I'm John Koon, and this is Vidalia City School News, an inside look at the happenings of the Vidalia City School System. Today, we speak with Vidalia City School Superintendent, Dr. Garrett Wilcox. First of all, appreciate you coming by and sitting with us, being able to talk to us and just give us some thoughts on what's happened and what's going to happen. Before we get into the school part of it, let's talk about the personal side of it. How's that affected the Wilcox family with all the girls at home and Blythe also in education?
It's been different. I'll be honest with you, John. It's been nice to slow down just a little bit. And I don't mean the necessarily 8 to 5, but just not having to go so much in the afternoons, the evening, kids involved with things, meetings we go to. It's kind of been nice being at home. We've probably eaten supper at home more times together in the last 3 months than we did the previous 6. We've actually started a garden, and I've shared with Coach Daly about my prize winning tomatoes. I'm going to get him to come see, but it's definitely been different. But I hate to say we've gotten used to it, but I hope we can start moving forward with some normalcy before too long. But it has been enjoyable not to feel like we're in a rat race all the time.
A lot of people say that it's brought the family unit back together, so to speak, because you can't go anywhere, or you haven't been able to go anywhere up until just the past few weeks. You buy into that?
Sure. I mean, we've spent more time, like I said, especially in the evenings. You know, Blythe and I still get up and go to work. I mean, you know, it's not the same. We may not be there from 6 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon, but you know, just being home, it really has been nice. We've been able to do some things just around the house that we hadn't been able to do just with the time we had on our hands. So.
When we talk about school and we talk about the whole school system, what is the biggest challenge that you, as the superintendent, have faced during this whole process?
You know, I think the biggest challenge, and one of the reasons we kind of put this interview off a little longer, was we're not in control of our own destiny. You know, a lot of folks have questions, and when we're not in control of when we can get back together, you know, the governor probably made a great decision to not have school for a couple of months while this thing ran its course. But, you know, that was a decision made at the state. I know the other tough part's been, I know a lot of kids have missed out on some activities, opportunities, these seniors, programs, games, graduation to this point. Hopefully we can still pull that off June the 20th, and folks feel like there's some closure to the year. That's been tough, just, you know, knowing some of these kids won't get these opportunities back. But, you know, the uncertainty in that, I guess, would be my answer.
When you talk about the graduation, and of course June 20th is the target date, how tough was that for you and your administration to be able to make that decision?
Well, at the time, it wasn't very difficult at all. When the guidelines say you can't congregate, you can't have more than X amount of people in a particular area, it was, you know, it had just been hard to pull off without, you know, not following those guidelines. I'll give Mr. Sharp and his admin folks all the credit. They're the ones that pretty much worked through that, decided to shoot for June 20th. And, you know, just what I know now, I think we're going to start seeing some things loosen back up. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that we can pull it off on the 20th, and these kids get to graduate on Buck Cravey Field and, you know, feel like there's some finality to their senior year.
Even though school has stopped, obviously the operation side of it hasn't stopped a lot. A lot of things going on. New track at the high school and some other things in the works for the other schools to improve it. That's the side that most people don't see. It just doesn't shut down. It's got to keep going or you get behind.
Well, one thing that we've been able to do is our custodial staff, you know, most people locally know we farm that out with All Clean. They've gotten a head start on the floors. I mean, for all intents and purposes, you know, within a couple of weeks, we'll have all the floors done in the buildings. That's not usually the case, obviously. And hopefully that'll give us a little more time to clean, disinfect, do some things that we haven't maybe done in the past just due to time constraints, and just to make sure the building is clean as it can when the kids come back.
Talking about the kids coming back, obviously we don't know when that's going to happen. Do you think that in the back of your mind, and we can't predict the future, that the governor and the DOE is gonna loosen some restrictions here in the next few weeks?
I honestly think they will. We may actually hear something today from the governor. I was reading an article this morning, and I don't want to obviously get into the political piece of these decisions at all, but I hope the powers that be deem it safe that we can start back school on time in some form of safe environment. And, I think the majority of our folks are hoping for the same thing.
Done a lot of virtual meetings, done a lot of virtual teaching over the past 2 months. Do you think we're going to that a little more in the future, or do you think it'll just balance itself out eventually?
Obviously, even what I've learned doing some virtual meetings myself is, there's really not a need to get in the car and ride an hour to a meeting that's going to last 30 minutes. I've been involved in a lot of Zoom meetings. On the instructional side, I think we learned a lot of things. I think the majority of our teachers made a valiant effort to try to keep moving forward. But the reality of it is, you run into connectivity issues at particular homes, and public schools kind of founded on the idea of serving everybody, and that was difficult. We couldn't get to everybody, and it wasn't an effort thing or a want-to thing. I think the kids initially wanted to continue and do what they could, but even my own kids, they don't have a big interest in sitting in front of a computer in their own home for 4 hours. That was tough for them. So I think the virtual thing is going to continue to be an option in some realm, just like it is in your colleges now. The colleges all went to some virtual platform. I think middle high, that's a little easier to conceptualize. It'd be difficult to do that with a kindergartner. The kindergarten teachers are, special. They build those relationships and work through that early foundation of reading, and that's hard to do without being face to face.
Staying on that subject, Sally Meadows received a huge award to be able to get enough tablets so you could have a 1-to-1 ratio. How big is that for them? And also, is there some other things in the works to try to help with that connectivity?
We have plenty of connectivity in the buildings. We redid our whole infrastructure a couple years ago. We still have some glitches here or there. If we've got 700 kids trying to log on at one time, we may have some hotspot issues in the building. But as far as Meta's been awarded that grant, it was big. We had made an effort, but we're still a little behind on the 1-to-1 piece at Meta's, and that was really a blessing that happened. And we've got those Chromebook ordered, and they should be here when school starts back.
Obviously, every year there's changes that happen in your staff, in the teaching and in the coachings and principals and things like that. Unusual year this year, you lose your head football coach and you lose your band director all in 1 year. How difficult is that to be able to get both of those positions filled, especially during a situation like this?
And again, I want to give Mr. Sharp the credit. He's the one that dealt with the majority of those fines, and we're very fortunate that Coach Hopkins and Mr. McCoy were here. Mr. McCoy in 1 year did a wonderful job and just had an opportunity he couldn't turn down. But we were extremely fortunate to find 2 quality individuals to replace him, and I give Mr. Sharp all that credit during the interview process.
We talk about what's been going on. What do you see in the future? What's Garrett Wilcox looking at as far as education? Do you think we're in the midst of a change, or do you think that once we get back going, this thing's going to level out to a certain extent? What's your gut feeling?
I really don't know how to answer that, John. I think if no matter where anybody is with this coronavirus, if we can get back to school in something normal, even under some different parameters, even if we have to make some concessions, have to be more mindful of spacing and those kind of things, I think the teachers are going to show back up ready to teach. I think kids are going to be excited to be back in the buildings, and parents may be more excited than anybody. But I guess to answer your question, I think when we get going, the one thing that did come out of this, especially at the high school, middle school level, our teachers did learn to kind of manage a digital platform. You know, we're going to try to do some more things in the classroom through Google Classroom just to be prepared. You know, a lot of our North Georgia schools have gone to this only for short periods of time with weather days. You know, they have days where they stay at home and function virtually and count those days as being present. And I think as we continue to move forward, we'll be a little more equipped to do that in the future.
One of the things that I picked up on through these last 2 months, your board meetings have been virtual, and it seems like your board of education has adapted to that, and not only adapted to that, but it's been a strong backer of everything that's been going on.
Sure. It's amazing how well those meetings have gone, especially when I set up the first Zoom meeting. I was kind of a little nervous myself, but the board stayed engaged. I mean, you know, they keep up with the ongoings, you know, of the school system, try to be supportive as they can, or be as supportive as they can. And it's interesting. I hope we can get back together this month. You know, there's a personal side to school, and relationships are a big part of that, and I hope we can get back together. But if not, we'll have us another wonderful Zoom meeting.
I give everybody a chance to be able to say something to the public, to the students, teachers, whatever. Anything that you want to say as we wind this up?
Well, you know, to the students, you know, I hate you had to deal with this. You know, I wish we could have done something different, but this national pandemic caused us to cut the school year short. The one thing that a lot of people don't realize, at least K-8, we got 3/4 of the way through the year. We might have had 3 or 4 more true weeks of teaching, and then we'd have started test preparation. And then, you know, the reality of it is a lot of the fun activities that everybody associate with being a part of school, field days, field trips, typically do those in May. So, you know, I worry about the kids that missed out on half a semester of math at the high school. And Mr. Sharp's, and along with, you know, admin staff's trying to put some form of remedial type program together at the beginning of July to try to reach out to some of those kids. Won't be mandatory, but, you know, real concerned about them not getting the second half of especially algebra and algebra 2. And then we worry about the K-1 kids. They deal with a natural reading regression over the summer anyway, so we went from 2 months to 5. And, you know, the things we can do to get them caught up. To the teachers, I just want to say thank you. I mean, you know, I guess it was a Friday at 12:30. We told them we wouldn't be coming back, not knowing that it would be the rest of the school year. But, you know, I appreciate them and all their efforts just to try to do the best they could during this time. And, you know, to our principals, I'm very proud of their efforts. To the community, you know, our hope is to be back in school, you know, the 1st of August, but time will tell.
Before we wrap it up, there's one group that we don't want to leave out, and that's Denise Parsons and her lunchroom staff, and the way that they have come together to be able to feed these kids during this situation.
Yeah, we did take the time to recognize real quick, real informal, those ladies in a board meeting setting, but they worked every day from the time we got out. And they had different groups, you know, that rotated in and out, but they did yeoman's work on short notice to give the opportunity for kids to continue to receive lunches during that time, and they deserve a big pat on the back.
Dr. Wilcox, thanks for coming by and talking with us today. We look forward to 2020 school year.